But, I would say, when we talk about chronic pain, we're looking at pain that has happened over many years, breaking down, wearing down. But lots of times it's tough because chronic pain can be disguised as acute pain, because you could say, hey, I bent over and I picked up a pencil and my back went out. Well, that might be an acute pain issue, but your body, compensated for that for many, many years to get to the point where the straw broke the camel's back.
Episode number 4 is with Travis Perret, owner of Exercise Therapy of KC, located in Overland Park, Kansas. My name is Eric Mojica, your host for the K & Chats podcast. Travis went to school at the University of Kansas, originally preparing for traditional physical therapy. He discovered the work of Pete Egoscue during his time at KU, and soon applied for a position under Pete's practice located in San Diego, California. In this episode, Travis talks about his experiences and what he learned with the Egoscue Method, with philosophy of posture, pain, and performance. After 7 years of working with Pete, Travis moved back to his home of Kansas City and started applying the techniques he learned. He created a program called Pain-Free Life and opened his own clinic called Exercise Therapy of Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas. For 13 years in the Kansas City area, Travis has been working with clients to get their lives back from chronic pain issues. Since then, the Pain-Free Life program has been transforming people's lives. After a treatment at Exercise Therapy of KC, many clients are pain-free, feel years younger, and become more active again. So turn up your speakers, put on your headphones, grab a pen and paper, and get ready to listen for another great episode. Episode number 4 of K & Chats begins right now. Good morning, Travis. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So we got Travis Perret here today, and Exercise Therapy KC, and so if you'd like, just start us off talking about your story and what do you do?
What I do is I own a clinic here in Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas, and we help people who have chronic pain, back pain, knee pain, hip pain, joint pain, things like that. But we do it through postural assessments, gait analysis. We're trying to figure out exactly what muscular imbalances there are in the body that might be creating joint alignment issues, which creates arthritis, inflammation, breaking down of the cartilage, things like that. So we give them exercise programs that help to balance the body, create muscle balance, alignment, posture, and things like that.
And so what's your background with schooling, and how did you learn to do what you're doing?
Yeah, basically I went to school at the University of Kansas, so I'm a Jayhawk, and I ran track at KU, and so I was very into the physical aspect of training, working out consistently, and coaching programs and things like that. And then also I was in the pre-physical therapy program, which basically was an exercise science degree. It's a bachelor's in education, exercise science degree, and planned to be a physical therapist. But when I graduated school, I think I was a lot like a lot of people that graduate, is I was kind of debating on what to do. Do I want to go straight into school and get my physical therapy degree? Do I want to get my master's in exercise physiology? Do I just want to work for a year or two and just kind of expand to figure out what I wanted to do? And I actually took that route and started searching for a job. And again, I'm from Kansas, born and raised, and I thought it'd be great to live out of the state for a while. So I was looking for some place to work where it's cool. I wanted to move to like Alaska, or move to New York City, and I actually found a job in San Diego, California, and they were hiring exercise science degrees, and I applied over the phone, and I flew out for several interviews, and it looked like it was just kind of a clinic. It looked like a typical physical therapy type clinic, but they had workout programs and training programs as well. So I was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. It helped build my resume. And I could be in California, and as you know, in the sun and the beach and all that stuff, and learn to surf and all that cool stuff.
Warmer than here.
Yeah, absolutely, especially today. And so I took that job. They said, hey, if you move to California, we'll hire you. So I moved out there just to build my resume, and then maybe apply to physical therapy school or something like that. But that little move, that little decision changed my life. It kind of rearranged my plan for my life. So.
And so, since we've talked about this before, so you learned the Egoscue Method down there, so can you kind of go into that and talk about what that is?
Yeah. So the place that hired me was called the Egoscue Method. And Pete Egoscue is a guy who started a clinic that focused on and really marketed to people who had chronic pain. He started kind of doing his personal training type thing back in the 80s. And he's got a great personal story about an injury and chronic pain, and helped himself, and that built into a business. And so he started this in San Diego, and it really just started kind of catching fire. He wrote several books about it, which even made it grow more. But he was probably one of the first people back in the 80s and 90s really talking about functional training, talking about posture and exercise. But he's not a doctor. He doesn't have a medical background. He doesn't do a lot of like scientific research type stuff. His scientific research is, I have a client that comes in and they feel better. There's my research, done. We worked.
Studies.
Yeah, case studies, exactly. And so he was the guy he's the clinic that hired me. So I moved out there and started working for him. But he didn't have any training programs back then. It was just kind of like, hey, you come work for me, and he trained you, and you learn from him. You learn the goods and bads. He was kind of a drill sergeant type, guy, and Marine Corps kind of guy, and you learned from him on like a coach, on this was wrong, that's right, do it this way, don't do it that way. But I ended up working for him for 7 years, and so I really liked it. As I've told the story in my book and that I tell at your class the other day was, the big thing that happened to me was within the first year of working out there at the Egoscue Method, I came home. And my dad was having chronic pain so bad he could barely get out of a chair. He had to sleep in a recliner, But the thing about my dad is he was 40 years old at that time, 43, 44, and he'd been a truck driver most of his life, so he's sitting, right? He always had kind of a bad posture hip position, and he had a spondylolisthesis, which is where your spine, kind of rolling forward. They wanted to fuse his spine. Put plates in and screws in and all that stuff, but I was able to help him through using a lot of the concepts of the Egoscue and posture, and realizing that, hey, my dad had a hip issue and not a back issue. He had back pain, but his problem wasn't his symptom. And the doctor in the medical world, they tend to focus on your symptoms so much, they're not looking at that holistic approach. And that's what I learned at Egoscue was, Pete Egoscue didn't invent any magic exercise. I didn't invent any magic exercise, but what he taught me to do was how to assess the human body for muscular imbalances, for misalignments that can help people feel better and move better. So it was a hands-on training. Now they've got training programs. There's several. They have degrees now that or certifications, corrective exercise program that was it NASMA does, and things like that. So that is already probably not as detailed as what it was, but it starts that process of thinking that way. Mm-hmm. And so it's getting more popular and more popular. So.
And so talking about posture, I think that the average person kind of tell, okay, they're slouching, they have really poor posture. But in our world, it's a little bit different, right? Because we look at, okay, like the shoulder blades are sitting like this, and the lumbar spine is excessively extended right here.
Absolutely.
So what can you kind of teach the average person, or what do you tell your clients as far as what to look for and how to kind of engage that feel, understanding what their body's getting into?
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that we're beat sometimes over our head from our parents saying sit up straight, right? And it's more than just the shoulder position, because even when we look at posture and we look at when we say posture, I'm looking at like your knee position. Is your femur immediately rotated? Is it externally rotated? Do you have an elevated hip? Do you have a posterior or anterior hip tilt? Those are posture issues. Now, obviously, like you said, the average client that comes in has no idea what that means. So it's our job too to educate them. So we want to, we have a plumb line here in the clinic that hangs from the ceiling that we take photos of someone's posture, the front, back, and side views, and we're looking at educating them on what is good posture, and so it's not just now shoulder position is good too, but also we want to forward their education, meaning, hey, when you slouch, what does that mean? Well, the fundamental idea of the human body, right, is muscles move bones. My muscles move my bones. So if you're slouching and you're doing it all the time where you're unconscious of it and you look in the mirror and you go, oh my God, I'm slouching. And I'm, it's different than, hey, I'm looking at my iPod and I'm slouching, but when I'm walking, I'm standing up straight. As you get older, you start to slouch all the time and you realize that, it's because you've taught those muscles to do that. So we've got to learn what muscles are doing that, how that's affecting the alignment, and how to educate those muscles to do the right thing instead of the incorrect thing. So I think the average person that comes in client-wise, they're pretty basic concept. A good test is stand against the wall, put your heels up against the wall and your butt, and see where the rest of your body lines up. If your head's forward and your shoulders are forward, it shows you have bad posture. But another good thing to do is stand, walk in place for 30 seconds, and then actually do it with your eyes closed. You're standing, close your eyes, walk in place for 30 seconds, and then open your eyes and look at how your body's moved. Are you facing to the right now? Are you facing to the left? But that shows imbalance as well. Mm-hmm. So, but there are a lot of little functional tests like that people can do to see if how their body is balanced and function wise. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can attest to that because I have clients where we're talking about some posture stuff. We're talking about getting those shoulders back, tilting that pelvis where it should be, and then they're so aware of it that they're fixing it, right? And now we're going through the next 15 minutes of the training session, all of a sudden they're really good about it. And then something that I kind of use is very similar is a walking test. All right, go walk a lap, come back, and let's see where you're at. Try not to think about it. Yeah. And so, thinking about it plays a huge role. Yeah, and you got to break, because we got those patterns, right? Muscle memory and the patterns, and we want to try to break those patterns and re-educate the body and the muscles to that muscle memory to do the right thing. So yeah, absolutely. And so, what can you tell us about chronic pain? Because I feel like a lot of people tend to wait until injuries happen, until there's pain. And so how do you define chronic pain from where it starts and then where it gets to for most people?
Well, that's tough because I don't know if there's any scientific numbers to that. I think I read a study the other day that when by the time an individual feels pain, so like say a knee joint, well, you start to feel your knee and you're like, oh my gosh, my knee's starting to hurt me. There's starting to be pain in my knee. There's studies that show that there's already 40 to 75% damage done to that joint before you actually feel the pain. Mm-hmm. So that means it's probably taken years to get to that point where you're damaging it. But I would say when we talk about chronic pain, we're looking at pain that has happened over many years, breaking down, wearing down. But lots of times it's tough because chronic pain can be disguised as acute pain, because you could say, hey, I bent over and I picked up a pencil and my back went out. Well, that might be an acute pain issue, but your body, compensated for that for many, many years to get to the point where the straw broke the camel's back, right? Mm-hmm. And so even though you might think, hey, I just did something, I tweaked it, it's an acute issue. Well, that was an acute issue with years of chronic problems, and then you kind of fall over the cliff kind of deal. But I'm a big fan of, especially when I do these talks and corporations and lunch and learns and workshops is, pain is like the engine light on our car, right? If that engine light comes on, we pay warning, right? Hey, my engine light's on. There's something wrong. I need to take it to a mechanic. I need to figure out why my red light is on. Pain is the message from our body to our brain saying, hey, something's wrong down here. Check this out. But we're conditioned, and I think in our society, to ignore that, right?
Just deal with it.
Deal with it. It'll go away. Ignore it, or take a pain pill and mask it. Right? It's not fixing the problem. Get an injection, a cortisone injection or something, and it's not fixing the problem, but it's masking the symptoms so that, oh wow, I felt better for another year. It went away for 2 years, but it comes back, right? Mm-hmm. We got to use that pain as a message, and we've got to kind of pay heed to that message. If you and I were driving down the street and I'm driving my truck and you look over and go, Travis, your red engine light's on your truck, and I dig in my console and I pull out a black piece of tape and I cover that, and you go, whoa, wait a minute, you're not going to feel any better. We're ignoring it, but that's what it's like when you take pain pills and you do cortisone shots and things like that, and even some surgeries. Not fixing the problem, it's trying to mitigate the symptoms. So chronic pain can be, it's usually chronic wearing and breaking down, but it usually happens from years. A great example too is a beautician, right? If they're standing all day long and they're working on people's hair, many hours of that, but they're doing that for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that misalignment creates excessive wearing, which creates problems.
Mm-hmm. And so it's clearly not just physical stuff, but even a lack of mobility, right? A lack of movement.
Yeah.
And so which one do you see more often as far as your clients? Is it people who do like hard labor? Is it people who kind of sit at a desk all day? How do you describe that?
Yeah. Actually, the way I describe it is people get stuck in their box and they don't reach outside their box, right? So they're doing their work, they're sitting at a desk and they're within their box. They never take their hands and reach it above their head, or, they stand and they walk and they're bending their knees and their hips and things like that. So it's usually lack of movement is that we see. And even like, hard labor or hard work is still a lack of movement issue, because a great example that we see a lot of are because we're in Kansas here, where I see a lot of farmers. I'm originally from north central Kansas, so but I get a lot of guys that come in here who are farmers, and they're like, their jobs are hard. But the thing is they might be on a tractor for 10 hours a day, and then they're driving on the tractor, and I've literally had this happen. A client come in that had this happen, where he was on the tractor all day, and he looks over in the ditch. There's a calf that got out of the fence. And they have the electric fence, so it's a low kind of line hanging fence. And he stops the tractor, he jumps out, he grabs the calf and goes to toss it over the fence. And what happens? He tweaks his knee. And I'm like, well, that's because you were on your tractor for 10 hours, you jump out and you throw this calf. I'm like, you're in your box, and then you did something that was outside that box, which tweaked it. And so, I'd say the majority of the time it's a lack of movement, and they get into their patterns, which create that wearing. And so whether it's an office job, whether it's you're a bricklayer, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's a tough job, but you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's that repetition. So it's not even sitting. Sitting gets a bad rap right now. Sitting is actually not that bad for us unless you're sitting, and you're sitting for many hours for many years. Mm-hmm. The human body's meant to sit, but we're also meant to run and climb trees and do that stuff. But if you're out of balance and you're sitting a lot more than you're doing the other stuff, it's going to create issues. So that's what I would kind of say with the majority of our clients is it's a lack of movement, in certain areas, and that's what our exercise program does. Is we figure out what muscles need that extra stretch or extra strength, and kind of give that to them specifically. So
that's awesome. And do you have any really cool stories about clients? Anybody that you did
like case studies?
Any case studies or any clients that just had something that was just such an awe moment?
Yeah.
When you worked with them?
Yeah, absolutely. The one with my dad when I first started was what changed my life, because he saw success and felt better, and it changed my career path, which obviously worked out there for Egoscue, and then 13 years ago opened this clinic here in Kansas City. So I've been doing this for 20 years. But also, in my book, Pain-Free Life, Eliminate Chronic Pain, I just talk about a lot of case studies in that. And one of them that I talk about in there is the one of a client who came in with knee pain. And he was in his mid-60s, and he's having knee pain to the point where he couldn't walk upstairs without doing one at a time, kind of the knee pain shuffle up the stairs. Couldn't walk his dogs, couldn't even play with his grandkids or anything like that because his knee was so bad, and the pain was getting so bad. He went to the orthopedic surgeon. The doctor took an x-ray, and on the x-ray is plain as sight. You have one side that's collapsed in, it's bone on bone, right? And the doctor basically said, yeah, you need a knee replacement. It's bone on bone, and there's nothing to do but replace it. Well, my client, he is a kind of guy that's very open-minded, and he's also very proactive. That's important, because he didn't just take the orthopedic surgeon's word as gospel. He was like, well, doc, is there anything else I can do that instead of the surgery? And the doc said, well, we could give you some shots, and it might help you live with it for a little longer. But he's like, as the pain gets worse, when it gets so bad that you can't live with the pain, come on in and we'll just replace your knee. Well, Mr. Hollander, my client, he's a lot more open-minded, again, a lot more proactive. So he's searching out there what he could do. And he found me through another friend I had helped, one of his friends I had helped with back issues. And he came in, and right away I could see that he didn't actually have a knee issue. His hip and his femur was kind of crashing in, right? And his foot was pointed out. So his lower shin and whatnot was externally rotated, and it was putting pressure onto that spot, right? And so every step he took, it was putting pressure, breaking that down. But that femur position comes from your hip muscles, right? And so I looked at him, I said, well, you got a hip issue here. And we worked on his hip and got him, pain-free within 3-4 months. I mean, to the point where he was like completely active, like running stairs, playing with his kids, doing all that. He was and actually became one of my biggest referring clients. I mean, he told everybody because it changed his life. But one of the things that happened, fortunately for us, but unfortunately for her, his daughter broke her arm, and she had to get pins in it. That's how bad the break was. And went to the orthopedic surgeon, and it was the same guy that looked at his knee. And the doctor said, "Hey, Mr. Hollander, he was there helping her, and he said, while you're here, let's take an X-ray of your knee and see how far along it had been." So it had been about a year after he'd gone through the therapy, and took the X-ray, and literally came back with the X-ray and was like, "What have you been doing for your knee?" And he's like, "Well, I was doing this therapy stuff and helped my hip, which helped my knee." And he's like, "Well, look at the X-ray." And he goes, "You've actually prevented your knee surgery. Your actual gap in your knee has come back, and that cartilage has repaired itself." And he's like, "How's it feeling?" And he's like, "Mr. Hollander, it feels great." He's like, "I feel like I'm 20 years younger, And of course, Mr. Hollander brought those X-rays. We have those X-rays here at the clinic, and we've got actually displays of them too, because I show all my clients of how the difference between the bone on the one X-ray and then how it looks on the other one where the gap is actually came back, but the femur position's a lot straighter. And we can put these up. You mentioned being able to put these up digitally on that too, so we got that in digital format too. But it was life changing. My receptionist here was a client before she was my receptionist. She had the same exact thing, bone on her knee. Doctor said knee replacement. She came in, did the therapy, pain free, changed her life. Now it's been a year and a half since she's did the therapy, and she's lost 85 pounds because now she can work out. Now she can exercise. She works with our personal trainer Emma all the time, and but it's life changing. So we see it a lot. When you align the body and you allow that to be put in an environment to heal itself, it can be life changing for people. So, and it's very rewarding for me because obviously there's a lot of coming from the reason I wanted to be a physical therapist was I wanted to help people, and being an athlete, I wanted to coach people, and now I'm able to help people and coach them through the programs and exercise and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, but it's we're the only people in Kansas City who really do what we do. The concept of breaking down the assessment, giving exercises and the exercise programs. There's a lot of people that say posture, hey, we help you with your posture, but they're doing it differently than we do. So we kind of found we found a niche for that. So. But those are some of our inspiring case studies that we see pretty consistently. So it's
powerful.
What we do, yeah, very powerful. So
that's great. And so, what differentiates what you do with a physical therapist? Because they're very similar. I'm sure they cross a lot of paths. What's the biggest difference between the two?
Yeah, they are a little similar, but I always tell, especially as you get into the a little bit, it depends on the physical therapist for one, because I would say we don't cross into the physical therapy stuff as much as they might cross into what we do or try to when it comes to posture and holistic care, because we're going to be more like a personal trainer would be, in that we are we're designing exercises, we're coaching them through training programs to do that. The only way it would be more like a therapy session is that people are coming in with chronic pain, right? So which is what oftentimes this a doctor or somebody comes with chronic pain, they're going to say, hey, go to a physical therapist. The biggest difference that we do though is we're more holistic. So we're doing a lot more like biomechanical assessment to look at how the hips are going to affect the ankle, right? I find that even though physical therapists are trained in that, they don't necessarily apply that concept to helping people through their rehab. Mm-hmm. We don't do rehab. If you had a knee surgery, you tore your ACL, and you came into me, I'd say you need to go to your physical therapist because that's not what we do. Uh-huh. We don't do any electrostim, ultrasound, ice, heat. We don't do any modality stuff. And so if there's an actual injury where you break your ankle and you need rehab, we would send you. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. We're focused on chronic pain, but again, we're using more holistic concepts with biomechanical assessments and specific muscle assessments, muscle testing and things like that. Which again, I think some physical therapists will get into that, but usually they're not, because insurance doesn't necessarily pay for that kind of stuff. If you came in with chronic knee pain into a physical therapist, and the physical therapist looked at your knee and said, well, you know what, your shoulders are all jacked up and they're so out of balance that it's actually causing you to excessively load your right leg every step you take. We need to balance your shoulders out to get your knee to be better. When they submitted that to insurance, their insurance company would go, what? Why are you working your shoulders when you have knee pain? So they're a little bit handcuffed sometimes with our typical medical industry with what their scope of practice can be. And so we don't, unfortunately, unfortunately, you could take it either way. Insurance doesn't cover what we do because it is more holistic. But then in that aspect, they don't cover personal training either. So we would be geared more towards like a personal training program that's niched into people with special issues, whether it's chronic pain, but even Parkinson's. We've got quite a few clients that have Parkinson's because it's scientifically proven that exercise benefits their symptoms. It decreases their symptoms and how bad their symptoms are. It helps them with mobility and strength and doing their daily life activities, things like that. So we do things with specifically too with Parkinson's and things like that too.
So to sum it up, it's kind of good the way things are then. Like we can specialize. You have physical therapists working with somebody post-surgery. We have personal trainers who specialize in movement analysis and strength conditioning. Different things like that, and so
because we don't do that either. That's the other spectrum. Is like if an athlete or somebody came into me and said, hey, I want to improve my 40 speed, or I want to throw the ball harder, or I want to get bigger and stronger. We don't really do that. We would refer them out to a personal trainer, and even our personal trainer here would refer them out to a personal trainer because we're going to be more based on. We'd rather work with their personal trainer and say, hey, have this person come in, we'll work on posture, muscle balance, and then as they get better aligned and better balanced, now you go work out with this, strength and conditioning coach, and he's going to build strength and conditioning on that platform, right? So we create the foundation, and then they create the, the growth from that, because that's, we wouldn't do it. If somebody came in and said, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months or whatever, then we would not be the program for them. Now if they're saying, hey, I would like to lose 30 pounds, but I can't because I have chronic knee issues. Well, okay, let's help work your knee, fix your knee, get your knee better, and then from there, you can start doing cardio, and you can start building, go to our personal trainer, and then you can go from there. And if you want to keep building, depending on what you want to do specific wise, we can refer out from there. So. But we found that kind of in between, kind of that bridge. But we really, and that's what we call it. I call it in the book is it's a postural bridge. We create that bridge, from chronic pain to better posture to reaching your goals.
Awesome. So for students who are up and coming, you spoke at one of the classes that I helped teach over at Avila. For those who are decided, maybe undecided on their career, what advice do you give to the students about just all these, because it looks like there's just so many different routes that you can take if you want to do something with exercise. So what's your just general advice?
I think general advice is, I think the intern deal is important. I did an internship with when I graduated the University of Kansas, and I did it in the exercise phys lab. But it was important because it kind of gave me some experience in that area. And hey, did I, learn right away? Do I want to go into academics as much? And then, which I was kind of leaning. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do so much academia with studies and grad assistants and things like that, which is good, and many people do, like you're doing. Or did I want to go into coaching, or did I want to go into physical therapy? So the first thing is, test the fields out. I would say, do a little personal training, or get into a business that is hiring people that even part-time. Go and try to work at a part-time therapy clinic. We hire part-time people that come in and can do can learn about what we do, and they're not doing therapy, but they're learning about to see if it's a good fit, but to experiment with some of that stuff. But also, I'm a big fan of research. There's a lot of research out there, and learn it. There's a lot of books out there on the subject. Gray Cook's, FMS stuff. Read that stuff and learn that stuff. because you can start to apply it. But even if you don't go into that, it'll help you with the other stuff. If you decide that, hey, I do want to go into physical therapy, the FMS concept's going to benefit you. ACM 360 Pro, the certification programs that we do to help personal trainers kind of break down assessment tools and things, that's going to help you whether you're a coach, whether you're a personal trainer, or you're a physical therapist. My book, Pain Free Life, gives exercise, talks about the concepts of posture. You'll be able to do that. So I think it's a lot about study. Just be open-minded and research, and just learn all you can about it. Be a sponge and soak it up. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't like that for many years. When I first started out at Egoscue, I kind of found his deal, and I was like, really into what he did. And I think that hurt me a lot. 7 years of just focused on that, in that it hurt me in the sense that there was a lot of other things that we could apply to what he was doing that would make even his therapy even better. And that's what I did when I eventually got on my own. It was like, hey, this technique's not the only technique out there. There are other aspects and other testing and other ways of helping people that we can apply and create, kind of a good melting pot of that. So I would say with people that are interested is just keep studying and keep researching, and try to get into the fields and talk to the people that are in those fields about what they do and how it works and things like that. So.
Yeah, I listen to Eric Cressy a lot, read a lot of his stuff, and he always talks about how it's a great thing to have a niche, but be open-minded still to learn other aspects, because you never know when you might be able to use it with somebody else. And so whether if it's an athlete, if it's just a regular person who's in their 30s, if it's somebody in their 60s, whatever it is, just understanding a little bit of everything, and then like you said, the melting pot. So
Absolutely would agree with that 100%.
And so your book available on Amazon, correct?
It's on
#1 bestseller, right?
It was #1 bestseller in for chronic pain section, which is awesome. That it was pretty cool that it hit that level. And we just released the Kindle version, I think it was last week. So there's also a Kindle version that a little cheaper. I think the Kindle version is $6.95, and the hardcover itself is $14.95. And but it actually talks, the first few chapters talks about the concepts, like a lot of what we talked about today. Mm-hmm. But on the back, it actually has exercises for walking and running, and so it gives a routine. Exercises for neck and head issues or back issues. Because again, I think one thing too is it emphasizes I didn't invent these exercises that are in the book, but they're put together in a specific way to help posture, which helps a person who's having issues function better. Because we get there's a few reviews on there that says, oh well, that exercise and stretch was in this other stretching book. Well, I'm like, yeah, it was, because I stole it from them and I put it in an order that was more beneficial for an individual. So, but it starts a program that people can do if they're having pain, that they can start right away to hopefully help feel better and at least start that process. So, we've got I think almost 50 reviews on it on Amazon, which is huge, and most of them are 5-star reviews. So that's obviously very rewarding too. So, and that's another thing is you learn that business is a big part of this. You can sit around and hope people recognize your niche, but usually you got to write about it. You got to talk about it. We do like 2 to 3 lunch and learns and workshops a month to businesses on, hey, we'll bring you free food if you get people to come and listen to me talk, podcasts and articles, and spreading the word. You got to really kind of let people know that you're out there. You can't just sit back and wait. So.
Good stuff. And so where can people find you? On social media? Where's your therapy address and all that?
Yeah, so our website's exercisetherapykc.com. And social media on Facebook, we're Exercise Therapy KC as well. And our phone number, 913-549-4343, is if you ever have questions, if you're having pain or anything like that. And we can actually just, especially for your group of people that are listening, we actually have a thing where I will give them a free PDF version of the book. And what they have to do is they got to go to painfreebooklife.com. And if they go to that link, and they can see the book there, and at the bottom they put their name and their email in there, I will email them a free PDF of the book. which is colored pictures, the whole book. Because our biggest thing with the book is to get it into the hands of people that want to read it and that want to educate or want to do the exercises to feel better. So just for you guys and your podcast listeners, if they go to painfreelifebook.com, go to that link, and you'll be able to enter your name and your email, and we will email you a free PDF of the book. So
Awesome. All right, Travis. Well, thank you for your time.
yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time.
All right.
Bye.
And there it is. Episode number 4 is in the books. If you would like to contact Travis Perret, you can go to his website and blog at exercisetherapykc.com. As mentioned in the show, Travis has a book called Pain Free Life, an Amazon #1 bestseller that talks about his training methods and how to eliminate chronic pain. One of the things that I find very useful about Travis's program is that it is simple and easy to do at home. Practitioners like Travis focus on movement, which I think is vital in laying down a foundation to promote a healthier lifestyle with the use of exercise. As a kinesiology student, I listen to a lot of great doctors and researchers talk about the dangers of using a fitness solution to fix a health problem, which is something that I think many trainers need to understand when working with clients who deal with issues such as chronic pain. Pain is an alarm system that tells you that there's something wrong with the body. But fortunately for most of us, we tend to wait until the pain is unbearable to do something about it. If you're someone dealing with chronic pain or even something minor like an occasional tight hip, a 15-minute assessment can make a world of difference for you to understand what you need to do to fix it. If you decide to deal with it and keep on with your current lifestyle, you can increase your chances of dealing with a more severe injury down the road. Even if you're not an avid workout person, your daily tasks often play a huge role in how your body loses its normal function. For example, if you work at a job that requires you to sit at a desk all day, you can build bad habits with your posture by slouching when sitting down and working on a computer. If you have a more physical labor type of job, the things you carry and how you move around all day can have the same detrimental effects as poor technique when lifting weights at a gym, reinforcing movement flaws and bad postural habits. Stay tuned for next week's episode with Dr. Michael Norwood, personal trainer and performance psychology consultant based out of San Diego, California. Dr. Norwood earned his doctorate degree in performance psychology with major areas of emphasis in exercise physiology and counseling psychology from the University of Kansas, where he also served as a director of Peak Performance Clinic. I want to thank you once again for watching and listening. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud for the latest content at K and Chad's Podcast. You can also find the links to our content via our website at kandchatspodcast.wordpress.com. This is Eric Mojica signing off. Until next time, this is K and Chats.